Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unpopular Review. We're continuing our movies with rain in them with my choice, The Crow. Yes, I know it's a pretty obvious choice, but I mean, hey, it has rain and 90s Gothic. Let's get into it. Let's start the show.
Not twice, not right.
You know what he did? He put another record on.
You need dumb people in horror movies.
Yes, The Crow, 1994 message about revenge and love and undeath. I mean, there's a lot of themes in this. There's a lot of interesting points. There's a lot of 90s in this, but we're going to get into it. And of course, I'm contractually obligated to never, ever do this alone. So let's bring in our first person, the Raven, Nevermore.
You know, and I'm sure you're wondering, why did I pick the Raven? This movie's The Crow, right? I wanted to pick a bird that was more interesting. So the only thing more interesting than a crow is a raven. And the only thing more interesting than a raven is your Super Bowl champions and Eagles. The Super Bowl champions and Eagles. That's right. Go Birds.
Let's save that for the other shows. We're talking about movies here. And we need one more. That's right.
Say that the Eagles' journey to the Super Bowl and winning was a movie in its own.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. The theme of this movie.
Yes, definitely dark, definitely moody, definitely 90s.
Yeah.
So we've got The Crow. I don't know if this was the start of really the Gothic scene. Definitely wasn't, but it was certainly a jumping off point, at least from my experience back in the time. And I mean, there's a lot of 90s in here, and there's a lot of, goth, punk, alt culture, especially with the soundtrack. But, I'll get into my thoughts on these things later on. I'll let my co-host go first. Who wants to start us off with talking about 1994's The Crow?
Well, listen, our theme is rain, so it was hard as hell to find movies dealing with the rain that other people didn't claim on other shows. Not this one, but on the shows. But I was overvoted by the board, and nobody has more power than the board. Listen, this movie is a goth's fantasy, a goth's wet dream. In 1994, I'm not going to even say that. You know what? Let's cut that part out. Where I was going, I can't even get away with saying that. But somebody was cutting glass, let's just say, in 1994, okay? It was this. They was salivating over this movie. Me, in 2025, not at all. I wanted this movie to be over. Like that Crow. like Ernie Hudson's boss. I wanted this all to be over with. I didn't know what was going on. If I saw that man was running and landing on rooftops the way Samuel Jackson's knees looked like they were hurting in the Avengers, like it needed to be over immediately. Like I thought I couldn't tell if he was supposed to be strong or what, or if his knees just regenerated earlier because he was like slow running, but they were shooting it like they sped up the film like he was running fast. Then I said maybe it's the boots, those Doc Martens he's wearing. I couldn't tell. But he looked great when he finally got dressed, holes and all. No pun intended on that one. Rest in peace, Brandon Lee. But yeah, I'm talking about the holes in your fit, But there were aspects that looked good. I think there was only one sequence where I could tell that, okay, this is probably where they used the stand-in for him, because of what happened, if the behind the scenes. Shout out, I forget the actor's name. It'll come to me later. But shout out to the actor who played Candyman. I didn't realize he was in this movie.
Oh, yeah, Tony
Todd. Thank you. Yeah, he was the only one who seemed like, okay, I'm going to work for this paycheck. You know, him and like the main big boss. The main big boss seemed like he understood what type of movie it was. But I gotta give it to the MVP of this movie, that little girl. No, I don't know what her name is. No, I don't care who her character was. But I was done with her. As Chris is so apt to say, I was done with that little kid. Okay, they were the most annoying. I couldn't tell. Well, even with the drug addled mother, they were doing too much. Okay, and how big was the city? Was it 3 blocks long? How big was the city supposed to be? Okay. Like I didn't know what was going on, but shout out to them.
The Raven. What do you got for us?
I thought normally he has a lot more to say, and I have time to draw.
I want to give people a time to shine. You know.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll tell you what didn't shine this movie. This movie previous to this was a very, 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 very bad movie that somebody had us watch, right? I think it was about a ship and some people and an alien. I don't know what it was about.
Had a lot of
I
water.
watched this movie and I couldn't tell you which one I hated more. It just was a really, really bad movie. And it has a cult following, a cult full of idiots. And I was looking for a cult full of idiots to put as my background picture. But I couldn't do it because nobody wanted to be on camera. Look, I don't understand why anyone thought this movie was entertaining, interesting, or any other thing I want to say other than pure dog poo-poo, right? I'm not even going to use the whole word, doesn't deserve it. Pure dog poo-poo was this movie. Don't understand it because it was so boring. Don't want to understand it because it was so boring. The characters were not believable. They were not relatable. The only one looked like he showed up for work, as was saying by Noah down there, was the same guy who was a villain in Highlander because he knows how to play an evil, creepy-ass villain. That's what he knows how to do. And he played this part well. But even he could not save the train F that was this movie. The train F that was, I could not wait. And this movie wasn't that long. I could not wait for it to be over.
Yeah.
Brandon Lee's acting, and I can't get away with what I want to say. But let me tell you something about this guy's acting, okay? That's all I got to say. Read between the lines. It needed an end, okay? That's all I got to say. It had to be stopped. This movie had to be stopped. I don't know if he was a ghost. I don't understand the whole crow. It needed to end. This rant has to end. It is not about to end. I'm going to go even deeper. Why did I have to see this little girl? Why did I have to see this token black guy as a cop? Why did I have to see token black guy as the number one villain guy? Why did I have to see a whole bunch of people shoot this guy even though obviously it was not working? I don't understand. You go out there and you gave people murderers and rapists so you can justify this man's actions. Guess what? They all were sick. They all were tired. And the only thing rain about this movie was the tears that were dropping down my cheek as I had to watch it for all hour and 36 minutes of this movie. What do you have to say for yourself next time?
First, you're welcome for being a short movie. All right. And so, when I first saw this movie, it was back in the 90s. And, back then, there were, I was younger. I had the nostalgia on. This was kind of different for me. And, it was definitely the type of music that I would listen to. I am definitely into rock, alt punk. And so it kind of appealed to me in that fashion. And, it was more so also kind of an action movie, even though there was a lot of angst in it, and I wasn't really, back then being younger, I don't really care about the acting as much. It was just, okay, some cool visuals, some flips, some jumps, some knife throwing. This is fun. It's a fun movie, to watch in the 90s. High octane with the music and, and the action. But watching it now with the quick cuts, that's kind of throwing me off a bit because I'm used to more modern movie making where, there's much longer cuts. Things aren't kind of jumbled together. So it was kind of throwing me off a little bit. I will say that I totally agree If that little girl, like I think they meant to have her be someone kind of endearing, someone she can kind of root for, someone she can kind of think about, but she just came off as annoying. I don't remember it being that annoying though. So it was probably something that maybe I was an annoying kid and I just, washed it under the bridge as I was watching it the first time. But, it was definitely something that was incredibly annoying this time. But still, I think about how it was a fun ride back in the day. And this time around, it was certainly an interesting watch. I will definitely give it that. It's interesting. Again, the soundtrack was great. I do like, I don't think anything in here was Oscar worthy, but I think Ernie Hudson showed up for work. He did his thing. This is him off of, I believe it was off the heels of Ghostbusters 2. I think that one had already wrapped up by this time. At least Ghostbusters 1 had. And so, he was putting in work. This was definitely after Candyman. So, Tony had put in his work too. I will say that the villain, he did what a 90s movie villain is supposed to do. He's supposed to be the big bad. He's supposed to ooze evil. Not like Ivan ooze, but just ooze evil. And I think he accomplished that goal. The movie overall, was it good or not? I guess you'll find out with our final thoughts after these messages.
I promised I would never go back to being that person. But when somebody does something unspeakable to someone you hardly knew, you do something about it. Because you can. I'm here about a girl. 16 seconds.
What do you see when you look at me?
What do you see when you look at me?
Dun, 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 dun. CGI. Superman flying is like, oh, and I feel bad because back in the day, I thought that was the illest shit. Like, yo, I thought that was so cool, man. And now I'm just like looking at it like it's an 8-track.
Wife from the TV show Rock from the 90s as husband and wife. And when I say Clifton Powell doesn't get his flowers because he always plays, majority of the time, I would say, 80% of his career, he plays the dickhead. He plays the villain. He plays the heel.
Yeah, boy. Hey, mama.
What do you want, Willie?
The Tupac did it. The Tupac one did it for me.
But he's doing that. How do you want it? And now that's a challenge. You want a real challenge? Go back to Terry Chews. How do you want a challenge?
Yes.
Tonight's broadcast has been commandeered by the secret society No Man, National Organization of Men Against Amazonian Masterhood.
And so that's what's coming up on Unpopular Review. Check out our other shows and our socials. But right now we're back with The Crow, and we're going to give our final thoughts, thumbs up, thumbs down, maybe even something that, really stood out for us on this movie, or not. Who's going to go first? Reverse order, the Raven, then Noir?
Please.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to go first. I'm going to tell you, I got to tear this movie up. This is one of, and we've been doing this for a while, folks, this is one of the worst movies I have ever seen. I don't understand why this was picked. I'm pissed that it was picked. It bothers me that it was picked, and I hope never it gets picked again. I don't want to see any of the sequels. I don't want to see any of its remixes. I don't want to see anything. And I want to give a special shout out to the man responsible. The man responsible for us having watched this movie. You may not know it was him, unless you're smart. Okay, I'm uploading a picture, and I already see that the next person uploaded a picture of his own. Of course, it's one of his favorites. But anyway, we're talking about right now. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the person responsible for this movie. And you might ask yourself, how is the president responsible? Well, I've been working with the next doctor for 2-3 years now on this program. And I've never seen a spin doctor from the next doctor until today. And that man, before the commercial break, was giving all types of excuses of why this movie was bad. How many times? And I'm going to do a supercut. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't know what supercut is? If somebody says something over and over and over again, I join it all into one video. The many times this man said, you know, in the last segment. And I'm going to tell you right now, next doctor, no, I don't know. Everything you were saying, I did not know. I did not understand what you were saying. And I'm not going to be polite about it. You are responsible for making us watch this travesty garbage of a movie. And just like somebody said earlier today in pre-production, he needs to be taken into the back and shot. I can't believe you sat here and made me watch this movie. And I watched this movie 2 weeks ago thinking we were going to take and record, and we couldn't record. And my brain tried to help me out said, you no longer remember. You no longer remember. Unfortunately, it did not work. Nor on you.
Ladies and gentlemen, before the show, as Chris alluded to, we were talking about the best of the best. The best of the best. Okay. This movie was not it. It wasn't in The Little Girl. It wasn't in that 3-block budget that they had to shoot this thing. It wasn't in that rundown hoarder apartment that they lived in before the tragedy occurred to Brandon Lee and his girlfriend that he loved so much that he came back as a unwashed corpse. No, it wasn't there. It wasn't in the script. 20 minutes into this movie, this is me. I'm calculating ways how I can get sweet revenge, but I can't say anything. You know what I mean? I'm just sitting there catatonic. People asking me questions. What's going on? What's going on? In my mind, I'm screaming for help. By the end of the movie, this is me.
What is that? What is that? What is it? Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! Oh, my eyes! Eyes! Ah! Ah!
That's what you can expect from The Crow 1994. Substitute the bees for crows or the movie, the film, whatever you want, okay? What is it? How many minutes? 62 minutes long? Yeah. You know what? Rest in peace, Brandon Lee. This is what you should. No, I'm not even going to say that. Let me go back in time. This was not his best work. What was his other movie? The Dragon movie? Was that it? Was he in that one? Okay. Well, if this was the only movie that Brandon Lee did, I am sorry. As was this movie. Can I get a black thumbs down, please?
That's not a thumbs down.
He gave that to you for making him watch this movie.
All right, so 1994's The Crow. I believe it had a great soundtrack. I believe some of the actors did show up to put in the work. But looking back on it with 2025 eyes, this is not a good movie. You know, I can excuse the poor CGI with the fires that were burning, you know, on Devil's Night at the beginning, you know, that just looked like someone painted fire on the camera lens. You know,
was Devil's Night supposed to be Halloween, by the way? I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it turned into Devil's Night because of all of the crime and explosion that were being committed on that night.
On that 3-block radius.
In the 3-block radius, yes. You know, and I can excuse the budget because, you know, everything's not going to have a budget. But overall, this movie just did not really deliver. You know, the acting from Brandon Lee, I mean, yeah, it was subpar. You know, his delivery of I don't know, his fury and his anger and his longing, it just wasn't there. I mean, and unfortunately the big bad, I mean, he was one-dimensional, which again, that is what a 90s villain was. They were pretty one-dimensional, and this definitely fit the bill. But it just was not an overall good experience. And I can forgive a lot of stuff, but if the experience itself is not good, then it's got to get a thumbs down. I want to apologize because, hey, it's unpopular reviews. Sometimes the movie's not going to be great. But we're letting you know so that you can avoid it. Anyway, for Noir, for The Raven, I have and continue to be the next Doctor, and this has been Unpopular Reviews, and we'll see you next time.
For the record, Ghostbusters 2 came out in 1989. Just saying. Just saying.
Well, that means that this was after it.
Yeah, not close. He said Ernie Hudson just wrapped up Ghostbusters
Yeah, 5
years ago. Okay.
Yeah.